Hi everyone, this is Carrie with Side by Side Educational Consulting. We work side by side with educators to improve outcomes for all students. One of the things I want to focus on today are the best 3 methods to teach vocabulary. Now this is something that's a really big topic and I could spend lots and lots of time on it, and I do in my trainings. We could do a whole day training on it, but I've kind of filtered up those 3 most bang for your buck methods in terms of vocabulary. Some vocabulary you can teach before you read and some during reading and after reading. So I want to talk about those 3 methods, and they cover all 3 of those areas. Let's talk about before reading. One of the things that you can do to teach vocabulary before you read is to do a 4-step vocabulary routine. This is a routine card that we have. That's scripted out for you, but I'll just kind of model it for you right now so you can get a sense of what it looks like. The first step is to introduce the word and then have students repeat it. So it'd be something like this. We've been working with that word reluctant. Boys and girls, the word is reluctant. What's the word? Reluctant. Reluctant is when you're just not sure you want to do something. You're hesitant about it. When you're just not sure you want to do something, you're hesitant, you are, and you have the students say it, reluctant. That's the first and second step. Introduce the word and then have students introduce the definition. You want to make sure that the definition is student friendly. So it's not necessarily going to be the dictionary definition. It needs to be a definition that is accessible for them. After you say the word and introduce a student-friendly definition, you want to go to step number 3. And step number 3 is you want to give them different examples of the word in different contexts. And particularly you want to give them examples of the word in contexts different than the text. They're already going to encounter that word in the text. In order for them to have a deeper understanding of that word, I want to give them examples that are varied and in different contexts. And it might look something like this. So I could say, boys and girls, if you were at a new school and you didn't know anybody there, you might be reluctant to go to that school. Maybe a little bit nervous, a little bit hesitant because you didn't know anybody. Or when I went to the lunchroom today, there was a new food there, so I was reluctant to eat that new food. Reluctant. So you're giving them some different examples of how you can use that word in different contexts. So step number 1 was to say the word, and then step number 2 was to introduce the word with a student-friendly definition. And then you go to step number 3, which is just give them some examples of the word in different contexts. Once you've gone through those first 3 steps, and it's pretty quick, you're going to go to step number 4. And step number 4 is where you're going to have them engage with the word somehow. So there's lots of ways that you can get them to engage with the word, but you want them to do something with this. Do something with it. This is the productive piece. So maybe show me what reluctant looks like, or turn to your partner and use reluctant in a sentence. And this is where we'll have them use a sentence starter. Start your sentence like this: I would be reluctant to, and then they share with their partner. Or give me an example of something that a dog might be reluctant to do. What is something a dog might be reluctant to do? So they're going to have to think about what that word reluctant means and then connect that to what is something a dog might be reluctant to do. So kind of like using it in a sentence, but you're giving them the example of what they're going to have to use. So those 4 steps can help you to introduce the vocabulary in an engaging way before you read. Another way to address vocabulary is during reading. So you absolutely can't teach all the words before you read the text, and you're going to have to address some of the words while you're reading. And one of the ways that you can address that is something called text talk, where you just really quickly stop and address the word in the text, but you don't want to interrupt the flow of the text. It's almost like if you're doing it well, students might not even really realize that you've left the text because you just very quickly give clarification on what that word means. I'm going to give you an example of that with a picture book text that you could be doing in a read aloud. So this book is called Oonga Boonga, kind of a fun title, by Frida Wyszynski. And the background of this text is that baby Louise has been born, and baby Louise just will not quit crying. She's crying, crying, and crying. The neighbors have tried tricks to try to get her to stop crying. Mom and Dad have tried all of their tricks to get her to stop crying. Grandma and Grandpa have tried all of their tricks to get her to stop crying, and baby Louise will just stop crying. But she has a brother, Daniel, and on this page, this is what the text says. And what I'm going to do is show you how to do text talk on this page. Here we go. "How did you do that?" asked his mother. "It's easy. You just say Oonga Boonga," said Daniel. So Daniel has got baby Louise to stop crying. "Oonga Boonga," said his mother. "Oonga Boonga," said his father. "Oonga Boonga," said Grandma and Grandpa. "See," said Daniel, "she likes it." And sure enough, she did. Louise was smiling from ear to ear. "Oonga Boonga," said everyone in unison. Boys and girls, unison means that you say something all together. Everyone said Oonga Boonga together or in unison. And then you go on to the next page. That's text talk. So you just really quickly clarify. For this example was the word unison, which is a nice tier 2 word. Really quickly clarify that within the text. So we talked about the 4-step routine before you read. We're looking at text talk within reading. And the last thing that I want to show you is how you can teach vocabulary in context and teach kids an independent strategy for how to figure out the meaning of words on their own. So the last way that I want to talk about in order to teach vocabulary in an effective way is whack-a-word. So whack-a-word stands for word structure, apposition, and context clues. What you're doing is teaching students a way to independently determine what a word means in text. This is a really important strategy, particularly for upper grade students, because when we're expecting them to be reading independently, and they've got to have a way to determine what words mean while they're reading. And lots of times we tell them to look for context clues or look at the words around it to figure out what that word means, but we don't give them a really good structured method for thinking in order to figure that out. And so what this 5-step method does is gives them a way to think about vocabulary while they're reading. So the first step, if you come across a word that you don't know the meaning, the first step of what you do is the W, which is the W in whack, is to look for word structure. And word structure is just simply morphemic analysis. That's a big way to say looking for word parts. So you're looking for prefixes, suffixes, root words that you might recognize. Okay? That's the first step for whack-a-word. That's the W. The second step is you go to apposition. And that's just a big way of saying it's a type of context clue, apposition. But it's just a big way to say basically the word is there, there's often a comma that follows it, and the definition follows. In other words, the definition is right there actually in the text. You see this all over the place, often in textbooks, particularly science or social studies textbooks. They'll have the word, often it's even bolded so it's obvious, comma, and then the definition is right after it. That's called apposition. The third part of whack-a-word, the C, is the context clues. And this is where you teach students to look for words, sentences, and the paragraph even, to give more information on what that word might mean. What you're trying to teach them is it's not one thing, but it's all three of those things, the W, the A, and the C. We're going to whack the word to figure out what that word means. And with those 3 clues, we're going then to make our best prediction. That's the fourth step. We're going to make our best prediction about what we think that word might mean. And we're going to find a synonym if we can, and put that then into step 5 into the sentence to see if it makes sense. Good readers do this probably without even realizing they do it. When they come across a word they don't know, this is the thinking that they use in their head. Think, oh, I think this is what the word means. Does this make sense? And then they just keep reading. So teaching kids this is really, really important. And in a lot of the testing now, you'll see them asking for, what do you think this word means? And what text evidence do you have for that prediction? Well, the text evidence is the word structure, the apposition, and the context clues. So if you can teach kids this, they're going to be very successful on that. All right, so those are the 3 best ways to teach vocabulary. I hope that you found this helpful. If you did, be sure to like this video and subscribe to our channel. That really helps us out a lot. And make sure that you go to the website too, because we have some resources there for you, particularly for the routine cards for teaching these things, and the whack-a-word strategy. We have that there as well. You can make a poster of it for your classroom because you can use it in text across the board. All right, everyone, thanks for watching.